friends, it's Lisa, and today I'm going to be talking about more anticipated book releases for the rest of the year. I have done a couple of other anticipated releases videos earlier on this year. I did them in kind of like 3-month increments, but this time I'm just going to be talking about the books that I'm excited about for the rest of the year. I didn't have enough that I was aware of for July, August, and September, so I just decided to talk about all the books for the rest of the year that I'm excited about. And as always, if you have any books that I don't mention here that you're anticipating and you're excited about, definitely leave a comment down below. Me and anyone else watching this video will appreciate any more recommendations, but yeah, let's just get into the books. So I have a 2021 releases shelf on Goodreads so I can keep track of any books that I have come across that sound interesting that are coming out this year, so that is what I'm going to be referencing on my computer here. So the first book that I have to talk about is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and this is coming out on July 6th. First of all, we need to have a moment of silence to acknowledge how beautiful this cover is. Thank you. So this book, we're following a princess who has this forbidden magic within her, and one day she kind of ends up losing control of that magic, and it ends up causing an issue where her wedding ceremony will not happen. So at first it seems great. She's like, oh, thank God I don't have to go through with this marriage. But it ends up causing an issue with her stepmom. So I think her stepmom ends up banishing her, and she ends up turning her brothers into cranes. So I think she has to go on this journey to find her brothers as well as learn more about her magic, I believe. It just sounds super interesting, super unique, so I'm very excited about this one. The next book I am super excited for, and that is Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson. This is also coming out July 6th, and I'm so excited for this. Leah Johnson was the same author who wrote You Should See Me in a Crown that came out last year, and I loved that book. It was one of my favorites of last year, so of course I'm super excited for this book as well. So from what I know about this book, I think it's following these two girls who are both kind of having some issues within their life, some things that they're struggling with, and they end up going to this music festival to kind of escape those things. And then I think they kind of cross paths and end up meeting each other at this music festival, and I'm assuming a romance ensues, and I'm just so excited. It sounds so good. I love the idea of it taking place at a music festival. I just think that that's so fun, and as someone who loves music and loves concerts, I think it's going to be such a fun atmosphere to read about, especially because I haven't been to a concert since 2019 and I miss them desperately, so I need to get that fix in any way, shape, or form that I can get. So I'm excited for this. It sounds super cute, and it's Leah Johnson, so I imagine it's going to be really good. The next book that I have to talk about is XOXO by XOXO, and this is coming out on July 13th. So this book is about this girl who has this one night where she is very much out of her comfort zone, has a bit of a spontaneous moment with this boy, and they end up having a really adventurous and great night, and then she never really knows who he is, never finds out who he is, never sees him again, and then she ends up getting into this school, I believe, and he ends up being not only a student at the same school, but he is this super well-known K-pop star. He's one of the most popular members of this popular group. And in this instance, he's actually forbidden from dating. So that causes a bit of an issue. And it just sounds super cute, and also I just want to read more books about K-pop and everything, so this sounds super fun. The next book is White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson, and this is coming out on September 14th. So I've read a couple of Tiffany D. Jackson's other books, and I really like them, and this one is supposed to be a thriller, paranormal mystery type of thing, and I think that that would be a genre that Tiffany D. Jackson would do really well. I feel like her other books, even though they've been really hard-hitting, difficult reads, I feel like they have almost a thriller aspect to them, so I think that this is going to be really good. I think it's about this girl and her family who move to this new house because her mom has gotten a new job, and all this weird stuff starts happening in the house. So it says, household items vanish, doors open on their own, lights turn off, shadows walk past rooms. I don't like that. Voices can be heard in the walls, and there's a foul smell seeping through the vents only I think the main character can notice. And also she has a younger stepsister, and it says that the younger stepsister keeps talking about a friend who wants the main character gone. This sounds terrifying. I didn't realize how spooky this sounds until I was reading the description. So maybe we won't be reading this. No, I'm kidding. I definitely want to read it. I think it's going to be really good. It just sounds very spooky, but I'm very excited. Like I said, think Tiffany D. Jackson would write a thriller mystery type of book really well because there's like those elements in some of her other books. So I'm excited to see what happens in this. I'm excited to pick it up, and yeah, very excited about this one. So the next book is actually a sequel to a book, so I'm not going to talk about like what it's actually about because I don't want to spoil myself or anyone else, but it is The Hollow Heart by Marie Rutkowski, and this is coming out on September 14th. So this is the sequel to The Midnight Lie, and funny story, guess who bought this like last summer and still hasn't read it? It's me. But in case you are curious, I will read a little bit about what The Midnight Lie, the first book in this series duology, I think it's a duology, is about. So I think it's about this girl who is a part of a lower status and just kind of keeps her head down and just like minds her business. But then she encounters Sid, a traveler from far away who whispers rumors that the high caste possesses magic. And I think they are going on like this adventure to seek out that magic for themselves. So it sounds really interesting. I feel like I haven't heard that much about this book. Even like the first one, I know I've heard a couple of people talk about it and I've heard a couple of good things, but I feel like I haven't heard that much about it, so I'm excited to give it a read and then hopefully read the sequel. Also, I apologize if you can hear my chair squeaking at all. It's very noisy. The next book I want to talk about is another sequel, and one that I'm not entirely sure I'm ever going to actually read, but I figured I would mention it because I do have it on my radar, and that is Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco, and this is coming out on October 26th. So again, this is a sequel, so I'm not going to read the description of that book, but it is the sequel to Kingdom of the Wicked, which came out last year, and to be honest, like the more I think about that book, the more I just don't care. I don't think I liked it that much. I will say, like, if anything, Carrie Maniscalco is really good at getting like the banter between love interests like really well. Like, it's just so good. So that's like the standout part from that book. Other than that, it wasn't that great. So I don't know if I'm actually going to read the sequel, but I thought I'd mention it. Also, this cover, let's not talk about it, okay? But if you don't know what this series is about, the first book is following our main character, Amelia, who has a sister who ends up being found murdered. And so then she kind of ends up enlisting the help of one of the princes of hell to kind of help figure out what happened. And it's such an interesting premise, but was it done that well? I don't know. I think I gave it a 4 when I first finished it. It's now been lowered to a 3. I still feel like that's a bit generous, but maybe the sequel will be better. I mean, that happened with her other series, so we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with this one. The next book that I want to talk about is Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan, and this is coming out on October 12th. So there really isn't that much of a description for this book, so I'm just going to quickly read it to you. It says, in an empire on the brink of war, An is no one with no past and no family. Also, apologies if I'm not saying these names right. Altan is a lost heir, his future stolen away as a child. When they meet, Altan, still don't know, sees in An a path to reclaiming the throne. An sees a way to finally unlock her past and understand her arcane magical abilities, but they may have to pay a far deadlier price than either could have imagined. I mean, that sounds very interesting. It sounds great. I'm excited. I also really like this cover. And I guess it's inspired by Chinese mythology, and it also says, rich with magic and an epic slow burn romance. I mean, what else could you want in a book, right? Also, if anyone knows how to pronounce these character names, definitely let me know because I want to know. I guess I could look it up. That would help. But if anyone knows, let me know. But yeah, this one sounds super interesting and definitely like right up my alley. So hopefully I can get my hands on this. So the next book I want to talk about, I actually haven't read the description of it. I heard like one thing about it and was like, okay, sign me up. And that is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuznier. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but that is coming out October 28th. So opposite of the past book that we just talked about, there is quite a bit of description for this book. But the thing that really sold me on this book is the fact that it's a retelling of the Nutcracker. And I just love the story of the Nutcracker, so I immediately wanted to read this. I haven't even actually read the story of the Nutcracker, like the actual book. Maybe I will do that this year and read this as well, but I just love like the ballet for the Nutcracker. I also love Barbie in the Nutcracker. one of the best Barbie movies. If you disagree, argue with the wall. But I'm just really excited because it's a Nutcracker retelling. I feel like I don't know of many books that are retellings of the Nutcracker, so that has me instantly intrigued, and I just love the story of the Nutcracker a lot, so I'm excited to see what this is all about. So the next book that I want to talk about, of course, I had to mention it, and that's Gilded by Marissa Meyer. And this is coming out on November 2nd. So from what I know about this book, it is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, which is very random, but very different. I don't think I've ever read a Rumpelstiltskin retelling before, so that's gonna be fun. I mean, she could have done a Beauty and the Beast retelling like everyone else, but she's thinking outside the box, you know? And honestly, I don't know much about the actual Rumpelstiltskin, like, story. I think I looked up, like, a brief description of it when she announced this book, but I don't really know much about it. But I think the whole thing was that she was saying, like, a lot of times the king seemed kind of like the villain to her, so I think the king in the story is kind of going to be like the villain, I think. I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't know the Rumpelstiltskin story that well, but I'm excited. It's Marissa Meyer. It's a retelling that is so like her thing, so I'm excited. I'm sure it's going to be great. The next book that I'm excited for is one that's probably going to break my heart, and that is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. And this is coming out on November 2nd as well. So again, another beautiful cover. So this book is following this girl who has a boyfriend who ends up dying, and the day of his funeral, she ends up skipping it and just kind of going through his things. And kind of at just like one last chance to say goodbye, she calls his cell phone just to kind of hear his voicemail, to hear his voice one more time. But a surprise kind of happens when he actually answers the phone. So I think it's kind of about like a second chance at saying goodbye. I think there's like, I guess this would maybe be magical realism, I guess. So I'm just really excited about it. It sounds like it's going to be absolutely heartbreaking, but the concept sounds so cool and so good. So I'm very excited about this one. How many times in this video do you think I've said I'm excited? Probably way too many. The next book I want to talk about also has a stunning cover, and that is Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. So this is a fantasy debut, and it's inspired by West African mythology, which is really cool. And I think it's about a mermaid, which I need to read more mermaid books. I haven't read that many, so I definitely need more in my life. So our main character in this book is a mermaid and collects the souls of those who died at sea and blessing their journeys back home. But one day there is a living boy who is thrown overboard, and she does something that she's not supposed to do. She ends up saving his life. So I'm super excited to see what this is about. Like I said, I need more books about mermaids in my life, so I'm excited about this one. It sounds really good. The next book I want to talk about is another sequel where I haven't read the first book yet, but that is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, and this is coming out November 16th. So this is a sequel to These Violent Delights, a book that I have had since last November and have yet to read, but I'm hoping to love These Violent Delights, which is why I thought I would mention this one. But These Violent Delights is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai, and I believe the characters, the Romeo and Juliet characters, are from rival gangs, so it just sounds really interesting and really unique, and I'm very excited to hopefully read it soon and then hopefully want to pick up the sequel. I just thought I would mention it in case anyone was wondering or was looking for maybe some fantasy series to look out for. This one is coming out November 16th, like I said, so hopefully I can read These Violent Delights by the time that this comes out. The next book is another sequel, but I've actually read the first book this time. Turns out I can read, and that is A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown, and this one has a couple of dates. It says November 2nd, but it also says November 21st on certain places, so I'm not quite sure when this is being released, but either way, it's coming out in November. So again, I'm not going to read the description because I don't want to spoil anyone who hasn't read the first one, but I loved A Song of Race and Ruin when I read it last year. It's so good. I definitely need to reread it in preparation for the second one, but I don't want to say too much. I don't recommend reading the description actually of the first book either, but it is kind of enemies to lovers, kind of they fall for each other, but they're also trying to secretly kill one another, you know. It's just a vibe. It's so good. It's so interesting, and just there's a competition element as well. It's just everything I could ever want in a fantasy, so I definitely recommend reading the first one. It's very good. So yeah, I definitely wanted to mention the sequel because I'm so excited. This is probably like my most anticipated release for the rest of the year, so I'm super excited about it, and I want to love it so much. And now we have finally made it to the final book that I wanted to mention, and that is The Ballerinas by Rachel Kapelke Dale. And this is coming out on December 7th. Again, the cover, stunning. I just love pictures of ballerinas in their pointe shoes with tutus on. It just pleases me. I don't know if it's because I was a dancer or what it is, but I will love pictures like this no matter what. So I'm obsessed with this cover. But I believe this is kind of like a mystery thriller type of book. It's about this character that I think was attending this ballet school, and she ends up kind of leaving, and she ends up having the secret that she kind of takes with her. It says that the secret could upend the lives of her best friends who are fellow dancers at the same school. But then years later, when she's a bit older, when she's 36 years old, she returns to her old place that she used to live to kind of choreograph a ballet that will kickstart the next phase of her career. But I think her coming back to choreograph this ballet is kind of challenging those secrets that she's kept to herself to kind of come and reveal themselves. So it just sounds really, really interesting. And plus, I just love the fact that it's like a ballet school. It involves dancing. It's just such an interesting like atmosphere and concept. And I feel like, again, don't read a lot of books about like dancers and dancing and ballet and everything, which I would love to read more of. So this sounds really interesting. I love the idea that it's like a thriller mystery set in this like ballet school thing. It just sounds great. I'm very excited about this one. But those are all of the anticipated releases that I have for the second half of the year. Again, if you guys have any that I missed, let me know down in the comments. I'm sure everyone would love to see the books that you guys are all excited about, and I definitely want to add more to my Goodreads list, so definitely let us know in the comments. And also let me know if any of the books I mentioned are ones you are also anticipating, because I would love to freak out about them in the comments. But I think that that is going to complete this video, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!